Hey there, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me okay. There should be a chat box, please. This is my first time using Demio, so I got to figure out where everything is on this platform. But if you can hear me okay, you can see me okay, go ahead and use the chat box to let me know. That way I can go ahead and jump right into the trading. Perfect, perfect. All right, I see Polly, I see Alexander, Tim, perfect. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into the trading here. I just finished up the last little bit of details on the new paper call template, and basically had to go through and kind of scrub out all of my personal details because it's the one that I use in my day-to-day sites. Make sure that everything worked correctly. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that one. I'm going to show you what the different settings are with it, how it works, what it looks like, and then in the same time, I'll be able to just basically take you through the process of launching a site and kind of delve into some of the new things that I'm doing as far as content and all that. So it'll allow us to kind of go through all that, but at the same time, kind of previewing the new template. So let's see if I can go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect. All right, so I just finished up the new template, and you're going to be able to find it if you go under my profile. Just when you're logged into the command center, just go over to my profile. All members should be able to get access to this founding members area. If you're a current member, you'll be able to get access to this. This is where I'm going to be posting the templates. But you'll see that there's one down here at the very bottom, new PPC template. Doesn't have a video associated with it because I literally just uploaded it. But the two files should be there, the installer PHP and the zip file. And the username and password are also there to be able to log in once you actually launch a site. It's different from the typical one. I went ahead and went with a more secure password, the one that WordPress typically just generates on its own. So that's why that's different there, but those are the two files. And what you're going to want to do is just download those two. Once you have them downloaded, you're going to head on over to templates. You'll click on add new, and that's where you'll upload it. Now, I've already got it uploaded here. I was doing some testing right before we jumped on the webinar here. So I've got it uploaded, ready to go. But that's where you will go ahead and upload it. Now, I also have a website that I've already kind of pre-added to the command center. So if you don't have a website or a domain name, you're going to want to do that. Make sure that you add your websites through here, do the Cloudflare setup. One of the main issues that a lot of people have asked lately is that they're having issues launching a website. And when you click on the domain name within the command center, when you click on it, you should be able to see this default server pilot page. If you don't see this, then somewhere in the process, there's been a little hiccup, whether maybe you haven't added it to Cloudflare or you haven't updated the name servers or anything like that. But basically, you should be able to see the URL resolving to this default server pilot page. And when you go to launch a website, if Command Center says, we're having issues with the website, most of the time it's because this page is not resolving. I actually have a check in there to see that it tries to load the website. And if it can't load it, that it doesn't launch the website because, you would just run into any kind of issues or errors down the line. So just always make sure that your website is resolving before you try to launch it. So mine is resolving. I added it right before we got on here. And let's jump over to the Shaker pages so I can kind of delve a little bit into what I'm doing different with content, some of the new things that we're doing that seems to be working pretty well. And how you can apply those to your website. So before we even launch the new template, go into it, let's go ahead and start talking about content. Now, a lot of the typical things, the H1 title, the slug, category, tags, all of that has remained pretty much the same. If you've seen any of my training videos or anything like that, we always try to go for like keyword and location is the main thing that we're trying to target with them. Let me look at the chat window, make sure there's nothing crazy going. Okay. So we've always stayed with that mentality, keyword and location. It's always been about that. But the content that I'm using now and the way that I'm using it's slightly different. So, let's say that the URL happened to be about court reporting schools. So let's take that angle and we're going to do, court reporting schools in city, state short, zip. And then for the slug, we're going to take a very similar angle, but let's just go ahead and throw in the word near me, city, state, short, zip. And you can also make some modifications, if you want it to be a little bit differently. It could be court reporter training schools, just to get some other words in there, some other keywords in the slug. I'd rather the slug be a little bit longer than the actual title. The title, I want it short and precise. That's what we're targeting. The slugs, we can squeeze in a few other modifying keywords. For category, I've always just been using state for the past almost year now, where we just use state, no keyword or anything with it, just the state itself. For tags, I am using the tag generator most of the time. Or something else that you could do is work off of a large list of tags. And, the idea with these kind of websites is that just one website's not going to cut it. If I'm going to be targeting the court reporting schools niche, I'm going to want to create multiple websites in that niche. And so one of the things that we like to do is create a large list of keywords and basically work down the list. So if I've got, let's say, over 200 keywords, then I know that that's about 10 or so different sites that I can build, because each one is going to have a set of 20 tags per website. And so that allows me to basically just go down the line of keywords, and for every website, I'll grab 20 tags and use them on here. And so that's something that, that's how we're able to kind of delve deep into some of these keywords and some of these niches, is knowing going in that we're going to be creating 10 to 20 different websites for this particular niche here. Now, as I'm thinking about it here, this court reporting schools has nothing to do with pay-per-call, which is what the theme is about, but this is just for the content side of things. When we launch the website, you'll be able to see what the actual theme looks like. But just for the simplicity here of the webinar, let's go ahead and use the tag generator. We'll go with court reporting schools. I'm going to say that we want 20 tags for this. And so we've got quite a variety of tags there, so that's nice. We want all these different varieties. Another thing you can do that I've done in the past is to, if I don't want to use any keyword tools or I'm in a hurry, we can actually use the tag generator and do the same thing, court reporting schools, and tell it that I want 200 tags. And I'm not going to go ahead and do any of that. And then we can hit generate. And so then that's how I can get my large list of keywords. And then once I've got them here, I can use like a basic text editor and kind of split them up into different lines. So, I'll take the comma here, and depending on your text editor, sometimes you could do something with called grep. And so I can tell it to break out, replace that comma, and just add a new line for each one. And so now I've got all my keywords on different lines. So as I'm going through, let's say that I want to go ahead and split this up into, I've got 200 keywords. I want to split it up into 10 websites. So I'll grab the first 20 and I'll just kind of cut those out. Then I'll come over here to the command center, import tags. I'll enter my tags right here, city, state, short zip, and I'll hit generate. So then it adds it in for me. Then for the next website, we'll grab the next 20 and so on and so on. So then that way I can have 10 different websites, all of them targeting different tags. And I didn't even have to pull out a single keyword tool. We used it, just the tag generator from the command center itself. Now for the SEO title, obviously, this is what's going to show up in the search results. We want to kind of entice them a little bit. So I'm going to go very similar to the H1 title, but no, I'll do something like top rated or something like that, so that it's, these are like the best schools in the area. For the SEO description, it depends on, nowadays it kind of Google decides whether it wants to use it or not, but for the most of the time, it actually does use the correct one. But we want to include some keywords in there and also kind of make it enticing for them. So we can do something like looking to become a court reporter in city, state, short. Find the best schools in city for court reporting and get free. And all this kind of cut off the last word just to leave that cliffhanger there. Always try to kind of throw the word in free if I can, just because it's, it's one of those keywords, one of those words that sticks out in a person's mind. But, they have no idea free what. And so that's what the cliffhanger there's for. Now, the SEO plugin that we're using with this new template is Yoast. And I would recommend, I've actually moved all of my websites over to Yoast, and I'll show why when we actually launch the website. There's one little featured in Yoast that I think it's killer, that I haven't seen in any of the other plugins. And it's worked out pretty well in getting tags indexed a little better and getting clicked through on the tags a little better, which the vast majority of our traffic comes from the tags. So we want to make sure that we are taking advantage of that. And I know a lot of you have mentioned that you're not getting the same index numbers with tags. And so part of it could be because of this. So you'll see once we actually launch it, I'll be able to explain it. Now for content, this is where things are a little bit different. I'm using a combination of things. I'm using Article Forge to kind of generate a snippet of unique text and then combining that with Content Genie. But I'm also using Content Genie a little bit different. So let's start with the Content Genie part, and let's do a search for court reporting schools. So we'll start with that. While it's doing that, I'm going to check up the chat here. It is being recorded. And somebody was asking what's the best network to use for EDU sites. The best one right now that I'm using is Campus Explorer. I've continued to use that. There is a new one. Excuse me. There is a new one that they've reached out to me and they want me to test out. I've just been so incredibly busy traveling, really, because we haven't been able to sit still for long, that I haven't given them a chance. But now that we're, the good news is we're going to be stable for quite a few months here. So I'm going to be able to kind of jump back in and do some testing. So if it pans out that they are better, I'll be sure to let you guys know, and I'll maybe even do a webinar with them to see how you can get signed up with them. But I've yet to test it out. The one that I'm building on my EDU sites on is Campus Explorer. All right, so let's see the content. What I'm doing now is I'm actually using multiple articles, 10 articles per website. So if I'm moving really fast, typically what I do is I'll just grab the ones here. So I'll grab all the ones here on the first page. These are all the results from the first page of Google on that particular search. And I grab the content. And what I'm doing by using multiple articles is I'm actually using the SERPShaker built-in function of spinning, and I'm spinning through those articles. So now, instead of using one article 15,000 times through our content, we're only going to be using it about 1,500 times because, we're taking the 15,000 cities across those 10 articles. And so it's not, every single article doesn't get repeated on every single post. It just kind of rotates through it. So that I found that seems to work a little bit better. That's working with the, helping with the indexing. You're not getting, we're getting the same amount of index results that we used to in the past, just because, we're not using the content as much. So the easiest way to set it up is, as soon as you get as soon as the content is grabbed, I'll add the first little squiggly there to signify that that's the start of the spin. And then one of the things that SERPShaker or the command center does is add this little dash lines, so we can actually use the search and replace and tell it that we want to replace that with the break to signify that that's where the new spin begins. So we can have it, replace all that. So that's the first thing that I do is kind of go through, clean that up, make sure that it did pick up every single article, and maybe it didn't miss any. And then the last one, we want to do the close squiggly bracket to signify that that's where the spin ends. Now, this does take a little bit more time because now we got to go through each one and add the city, state, short, SIP combination. But typically when I'm doing these for myself, I kind of just fly through it and I don't actually pay attention to where it gets dropped. Just anywhere in the content, as long as you've got the city, state, short, SIP, in a couple of areas, that's more than enough for it to work. And so a lot of times I'll just jump into the first paragraph, maybe somewhere at the end of the second, and the same thing with this one. So I've got it about 3 times. Then I'll just kind of jump out to the end and drop it at the end here. So 4 times for that one. So you're going to do that for each one. And notice that I didn't even read the article. I didn't see where I dropped the city, state, short SIP or anything like that. I was just dropping it in there because we want to have the location in there. Also, with outgoing links, we want to just take a look and see, okay, is this somebody was trying to promote a particular website, or is this an actual organization? It seems like this one is an actual organization. So that's a good outbound link to have on there as authority link. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one, where I'm just going to drop the city, state, short SIP. I'm just pasting it in a few different locations. I try to get about 3 or 4 times at least on each one. And since, like I said, we're building these in mass, we can't really sit there and make every single one perfect, make the content perfect. And so that's why I just tend to fly through it. And I haven't really found a difference as far as ranking and traffic when I do take the time and make sure that the city, state, short SIP makes sense, or when I just randomly drop it like I am doing it right now. Now I have tested it, we're just doing 5 articles instead of 10. And it's worked out just as well. I just figured if 5 is working, might as well do 10, make sure that we're not diluting the content as much. Now here's an outbound link that more than likely I'll end up removing because it's just going to, it's just promoting a random website. So I'll remove that. But I can add in my location shortcodes there. I'm about 3 or 4 articles in here. We're going to do this for each one. Notice I'm not doing the interlinking either. I'll show you what we end up doing with interlinking. So that way we don't have to do it for every single one, because then that would end up taking extra time. And I'm not doing images, I'm not doing bolding or H1s or H2s or anything like that. Just kind of going with the bare minimum for these. Obviously, if you took the time to do images, add the alt tag, if you took the time to maybe add some headlines, you may get better results, but I'd rather get out more websites than, than spending more time on just one particular website. But that's just my method of building these and making sure that I can actually get them out in mass and not spend a ton of time on each one. Most of the time, to be honest, as I'm going through these, I'm not even looking. I'm just randomly, wherever my mouse ends up going, it's where I'll drop the city, state, short, sit. When I get myself in that kind of workflow. Right here on the webinar, I'm kind of taking a little bit of time, make sure that I'm not even in the middle of a word. But most of the time, like I said, I just fly through these. All right, this is the very last article here. All right, so once we've got our location set up, we also want to do our interlinking. And the way that we do that, or the way that I've been doing it, is I take the short codes that we do have, the cities, the tags, kind of bring them over here, and we want to basically end up spinning through these. And if you've done some of the one-on-one coaching with me, you've probably seen this in the past, but I'm just going to do like a search and replace. We're starting to set up the spin here. I'm going to bring these over. We're going to add it at the end here. Remove this last one here. So I've got this set up here where it's spinning through the keywords, the tags that we're using. And we're basically just going to select those. And we're going to create the previous post link. And then we're going to do the same thing for next post, but we're going to stagger them so that it actually uses a different keyword for previous post and a different keyword for next post. So we just took the first keyword, kind of threw it to the end, just so it's a staggered setup. And then I'm going to use that for the next post. So then that way, every single post is going to be using a different keyword, but it's all related keywords. It all has to do with the niche. And it's going to kind of spin through those for next post, previous post. And then finally, we want to make sure we have the article forage article in there as well. And I like to kind of start out with that one at the very top. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll to the top here. Use article forage. I'm going to tell it court reporting schools. And for this one, I use a short one, about 200 words. I try to include titles, try to include images. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And but we just go ahead and hit generate article. Now, article forage is a little bit slower. They do create the articles from scratch. And basically, it's an API program. I think it's like $47 a month or so. I first started testing it out quite a while ago, actually. And for a while, I stopped using it. But ever since we've had issues with indexing and content, and so I kind of started using it again, but not on its own. I always mix it with another article. So that way, I've got a good mix of content in there. And that seems to work really well. So right now it's just, it's using the API to do that. If you don't have an API for it at the moment, you're not signed up for it, you can get the link by just going through, go down to APIs. You'll notice Article Forge on the top right corner of it. Click on that. It's going to direct you straight to where you will go get that. You get that API key, you input the key in there, save it, and then you'll be able to take take advantage of that. So since it is a little bit long, it does take a little bit long. I do have that little thing that pops up if it's taking a little bit longer than normal. I went ahead and said that the article is still loading in the background. Just click OK and just kind of wait for that to come through. While that's doing that, I'm going to jump over to the questions again, make sure I haven't missed anything. Polly, you asked if I'm using 5 or 10. I've gone pretty much to 10 most of the time. And that seems to be working really well. It's just a matter, I had to kind of like look and see if I use 10, is it really worth the extra time that it takes? And as long as I'm doing it through where if I'm jumping through and kind of just dropping the city state short zip in random areas, not really paying attention, then I can do 10. If it's like a more competitive niche, something like drug rehab or the really, really competitive ones, then maybe I'll use 5 just so that I can take a little bit of extra time to go through and make sure that everything works correctly. Now, if it takes too long for Article Forge, another thing that you can do is you can go straight to their website and just see the article as it's creating it. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Oh, just as I was about to do that, it finished up. So it brought in, it brings in the headings, which is really good. We get some extra. This is a way to kind of get those H1s and those H2s in there. And then, we've got a few more headings throughout it. And it looks like this one didn't bring any images with it, which is fine. We don't need images per se, but sometimes they'll have images on there. But now that we've got all that set up, we can go ahead and save the Shaker page, or we can save on launch. I'm going to go ahead and click save on launch so we can just jump right into launching the website. And so it's going to ask us what website. I've got the website over here. And then the template, we're going to be using the new PPC members template. So we're going to go ahead and launch it. And like I said, if you get any errors here, most of the time it's because of the website not resolving. So just kind of check and make sure that you've added it to Cloudflare, you've updated the name servers, you've done all that correctly. That's going to be most of your errors there. Every now and then, if there's like a new duplicator version and you use the new one, sometimes they change some of the functions. So it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of letting me know that you're having an issue with a new duplicator. And I can update it and see. I think that the current one, the newest one right now, is having an issue. I know some people reporting an error, so I'll be able to take a look and see and fix that. But for the most part, like the version that comes with this template is working just fine. So if you want to update it, then you should be able to create a new template based on this one. All right, so now that we've got the website launched, we can go ahead and log in. Remember, the login information is right under your profile here. You scroll all the way down to the bottom is this new one right here. It says the username is SSCC admin. And the password, it's this random one here. Okay, once we're logged in, what I typically like to tell you guys is the first thing you want to do is you want to change that user. This is something that I gave everybody, this username and password combination. If you're going to be using it on a live site, you don't want to be using that same username and password combination. So the first thing you want to do is jump over, add a new user. Let's say we call it site admin. And just put in a dummy email there, but we'll go ahead and use strong password again. but I immediately log out, log back in with that new one. And I delete that old user. So then that way, nobody else has access to this website. And so, the first time that you launch a brand new template, especially using one of my templates, you're going to end up, kind of adding your own API keys and all that. So then, you want to make sure that you've got your username in here and your password that you want to use from now on. So then that way you don't, like I said, you don't want to give access to anybody else to your website by keeping all the information default. So let's go ahead on over to Shaker pages. We'll check out the Shaker page that it brought over, the court reporter one, and we'll build a couple posts so you can see the look of these posts and you can see what's specific and what's special about this theme. So before you launch any post or build any post, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to scroll all the way down and you're going to look for this area here, short codes needed for theme. There's quite a bit of stuff that I've hard-coded into the theme itself, so you want to take advantage of these here. Just basically fill in what it tells you to put in there. City, state, short, zip. We can go ahead and save that draft. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to do 100 posts for now. Now, the feature of days in the future or past, I am using this. I always tell it to do 350, so right about a year, and backdate it. So what it does is every single time that it builds a post, it chooses a date between now and 350 days ago and just gives it a random date. So that way it doesn't look like it was all built in the same time. It's still unnatural because obviously, you have 15,000 posts that was built in a matter of a year. It's still, quite a few hundred posts per day, or quite a few thousand posts per day, 100, I think. But it's just, it's better than them all being on the same exact day. So once I've got that and tell it to build those pages and posts, it's going to just build 100 of them since I told it to stop at 100. And then we can take a look at a few of the settings, a few of the unique things about this particular theme. Okay, so we've got right at the very top, we've got the phone number. This is a pay-per-call theme. There's actually supposed to be a map image here. It's not there because we haven't input our API key for Google. So we're going to have to get an API key. I'm going to show you where to get that. So it would have a map image right here. Once again, the phone number is visible in multiple areas here. A lot of these are controlled via a plugin that's called Custom Options Plus. So if you go over to Settings, Custom Options Plus, you'll be able to see a lot of those things there. So we have something like the biz niche. This is where this part right here, pest control, comes in. You'll notice that it says pest control. That's coming from the business niche, so we can change that out there. Also, these comma-separated keywords, affordable, top-rated, certified, those are right there, affordable, top-rated, certified. So you can put in a variety of different keywords in there if you wanted to. The phone number is actually right here, so you can change out what that phone number is depending on the offer that you're promoting. And anywhere that the phone number shows up, it's going to go ahead and replace that there. You also have the option of displaying breadcrumbs or not. Right now it's set to true, so you'll see that it does have a breadcrumb setup. The reason this is important is because on the search results, you'll notice a different setup if you are actually displaying these or not. So I've left these optional I like to display them because I like how whenever Google picks it up, how it displays it on the search results. You may not like that, so that's depending up to you if you want to do that. It's just as simple as switching it from true to false. The hours where it says open 24 hours, 7 days a week, that's coming up from here. So if the particular offer is not 24/7, you'll be able to replace that there. You also have top right, bottom. So this open 24/7, call now. This part right here is control there. So whatever you put on there is going to show up on the very top. The hablamos español, the same thing, top right, bottom. Whatever you put on there is going to show up there. It's also got some mobile stuff that says mobile benefit 1, 2, and 3. Basically, when this page shows up on a mobile, it's quite a bit different on here. So you'll notice that, effective, free quote, certified experts is what shows up on there. And that's where those mobile benefits kind of come in here, where it said effective, free quote, certified experts. So if you wanted a different bullet points, you will control those through there. The tagline, get a quote now, comes from here. So get a quote now, you can change that. The reason I made that being able to modify that is because sometimes with our drug rehab offers, obviously you're not going to get a quote. It's more like get help now or something like that. So you're able to kind of modify that. And that shows up in a couple of areas. We've got it here. We've got it at the bottom of the content. Bottom of the content here, get a quote now. And so let's jump into the API key for the image so we can actually get the map image. You can see how that works. So it says the API key. It actually has a URL there. If you just copy and paste that into Google or into your browser, it should take you straight to the developers area. If you don't have a developer's account, then it will tell you to go ahead and create one. I already have one, so I can just go ahead and click on get a key, and I believe it should take me straight to giving me the API key, because otherwise you would have to create a new app and create that specific API, or I enable that specific API, which is the JavaScript API. So let's see, I'm going to choose one of my random projects, and then let's enable API. They change the setup here every few months, so every time that I come to this page is slightly different. All right, so at least it kind of seems like they've made it a lot easier. So we just copy the API key from there. We head on over to Custom Options Plus, and then just replace the one that's in there at the moment. Make sure there are no empty spaces. Sometimes we end up bringing over empty spaces. So as long as there's no empty spaces, then we should be able to refresh the page here. So it's not showing the image. Let's see. All right, so we have the key. We may have to enable another API. Okay, yeah, I believe it's a static map API. So if you have the same issue that I did where it doesn't show the image, then just make sure your static maps API is also enabled because it needs both of them to work. And then once it's enabled, we should be able to refresh and actually get an image. There we go. So if you're having issues with the image showing up, but you know the API key is correct, then it's just a matter of activating the correct API. It needs both the JavaScript and static maps. So once you get that on there, you should have the image showing up. It's the same image that shows up when it is in smaller size. And so that's controlled on there by these custom options. Same thing with the YouTube API. You're going to need a specific API for YouTube. It currently doesn't have one under settings and tools. There's not one here. So you can actually use the same exact API key. You just have to enable that YouTube API over here. So if we go over to the dashboard again and look for YouTube, we can make sure that it's enabled. I think on this particular API key, it's already enabled. So if I were to put that API key in there and we look and refresh our page, you'll see that there are YouTube videos in here. They're actually hidden. So you got to be able to find them here. The surrounding areas. Oh, this is something that I actually forgot to mention. Surrounding areas, obviously it's got the random posts built into it. But one of the things that I've been doing lately too on my websites is using this plugin called, I forget exactly the name. Let's see, RSS. This one, RSS via shortcode for page and post. And so what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the RSS feed from a Bing search. And I'm using Bing because all the other search engines kind of block me, but Bing doesn't. And they do provide their search results in an RSS feed. And so basically what it uses is it uses the business niche with the location of this particular post. This particular post is Adamsville, Alabama. And so it grabs those 10 search results and puts them on here. Now, you may not want to do this. This is completely up to you. What I found that it does is that it creates unique content, different content for every single post, because every single post is a different location. So it's, got slightly different contents relevant to our niche, depending on what the niche is that you put on certain custom options plus, and it's, outbound authority links. The thing that I've run into a couple times with this is that I'll have some of these websites, send that email to please remove the links from my website, blah, blah, blah. I usually just ignore those. They're no big deal. A lot of times they're just auto created. There's a program, I guess, that checks for backlinks, and if they haven't built them, then it has to remove those. So you get those emails, but this has done a really good job for me, done wonders for me to add those related results, add that related content, unique content on every post. So this might be something that, you want to continue adding to your other websites as well. So that's one thing there. And here's where it actually shows the video. So we've got the video, Adamsville information. We've got the video there, weather, and notice that we don't see any tags or categories. Those are also hidden because I didn't want a long list of tags and categories showing up at the bottom. So, I've kind of hidden those as well. But if you mess around enough, you're able to find it with your little clicker. And, here are the tags. And I believe that there's something else that's hidden, but it's only on the home page that it would show up. like the next post, previous post type thing. But that's all in there. And we've got the, if we notice, we have the interlinking down at the bottom here using the different keywords that we picked, the tags that we're using. So that's one way that shows up. And so every single post is going to have, it's using a different article for them. And it's also using different keywords to interlink them all. So that seems to work pretty well. And once you've gone in here, you've made all your changes before you even build any post, you've added your API keys, you've done all that. That's when you want to jump over to Duplicator, create a new template. And so that way, when you launch the next one, then you don't have to make any of those changes. Your API key and everything else is on there. This particular template does have WP refresh, and it's actually a newer version that I created for myself. It's got an extra setting in here because the original WP refresh, what it does is it grabbed every single post and it updated the date to today's date. Now I've limited to where it only does about 100 posts a day. So it'll just grab like 100 random posts and update the date. So it doesn't look as unnatural as the other one did. So this is taking advantage of that. And then finally, I said that we're using Yoast. And the main reason I'm using Yoast is because of this setting that I found under titles and metas. Under taxonomies, which is what will be your categories and our tags. I don't really care about categories, but it was tags that kind of caught my interest. That you can set a meta description template and a title template, because I noticed that basically my tags, when I'm creating the content in the command center, I can tell it to use a particular description for my post. And it would use that, Google, whenever I would do a site search, I would see that my post had a unique description because it was taking advantage of the city, state, short zip for that. But then when it came to my tags, it wasn't using that particular description. It was just grabbing like the first snippet of text for that particular post. If you led with your city, if you started off the content with your city, then that was okay because your tags all have somewhat unique descriptions. But what I found out is that most of the time we didn't lead with our city. We'll have some other random snippet. And so the description for my tags was all exactly the same. There was no location, no keyword, nothing in there. And so it was creating issues. And I think that's why they were not getting indexed as well. Because it was just very repetitive stuff. So by taking advantage of this little template, we can put in the tag. Most all of our tags have the location attached with them. So whatever the keyword in city, state, short zip is, whatever the site name is, that's what's going to be the title of your tag. But then, we take advantage of that tag once again in the actual description. So, looking for keyword in city, state, zip. Call us today and speak with one of our agents about keyword in city, state, short zip. And so that's working a lot better because now every single one of our tags has a unique description. And so it's easier to get those indexed in there. Another thing that you want to make sure when you're using Yoast, make sure you set these to no index, these sub pages. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bunch of like -2, -3, -4. Of things that are indexed. So you want to set those to no index. And I also tell, I disable these other features because I feel like they take up a lot of resources that we don't need. And also the XML sitemap, make sure that that's disabled. We don't want to use their XML sitemap features. That's why we have BWP. Anytime that I've seen resource usage issues with Yoast, it's because people are trying to use the XML sitemap feature of Yoast, which is just not very efficient for these large sites. So that's where we're using Yoast, and that's worked really well. So for example, just take a look at one of these posts. And we'll take a look at this one. And we'll take a look at one of the tags. So you can see what I'm talking about with that description. So if we go to view page source and we look for the description, you see looking for whatever the tag is with the location. call us today and speak with one of our agents about, you know, blah, blah, blah with the location. So if we didn't have that there, if we weren't using Yoast, then it actually would not even have a description tag. And so that's when Google decides to just randomly, okay, I'm going to use like the first snippet of text. And that's why it would end up like that. It does have the schema built into it. You can test it and see that it's got schema throughout it. That's all. It's all hard coded in there. And yeah, I believe that's it on the theme. That's it on the template. That's what I wanted to cover with the content. One final thing. This template does come with SERPShaker Pro. So once you're done building the post, if you want to disable SERPShaker, deactivate it, and you want to activate solo, you're able to do that and still retain all the SERPShaker features. Some people were just hesitant about keeping SERPShaker active and maybe showing up. There's really nowhere in the source code that you can tell that it's SERPShaker. Like there's no footprints or anything like that, but it's just a feature of Pro. They're both on there. So if you wanted to take advantage of that, you could. I typically don't. I forget to do that anyways. But that is an option there. All right, so let me jump over to the questions, just make sure I haven't missed anything. But we are pretty much out of our hour here. Let's see. James saying that he's getting less pages indexed for sites. Definitely try the content strategy I just showed you. That's really what's helped me with the indexing is you know, kind of spinning through the different articles. Alexander, your question about the domain, that really was just an example here. But typically I do have a keyword in the domain and then I repeat it in the slug again. And that's really not, you know, that's not changing any of the results or hurting me at all. So, you know, typically you would consider that to be keyword stuffing, but it seems to be working pretty well for me. And I've also had websites where it's just a generic domain name and then, you know, the actual keywords and the post, and that works about the same. So I really see no difference in what your domain name happens to be. The only time I've noticed a difference is if you're using a authority type domain. Those tend to work a little bit better, but then, you know, you're going to $10 per domain. So it can get costly. So I do a mixture of everything. I do the cheap TLDs. I do some expired subdomains. Some of them I'm not on subdomains, right, on the domain itself. So just a mix of everything to be able to minimize cost and still get a mass number of sites out there. Mark, you're asking if, you know, when you backdate the post and using WP refresh, how does that work together? Basically, you backdate the post. So when you first originally released the site, all 15,000 posts are going to have, you know, random dates and it's going to go a year back. And so Google's going to index, you know, it's going to crawl that original site, kind of see that sitemap. But then with WP refresh, what you're doing is, you know, on a daily basis, you're getting about 100 different posts and kind of changing the date. So it just does that. It just kind of refreshes it, keeps everything fresh. It doesn't do all 15,000 at once. But the idea is that as the Google bot keeps on coming back, it sees that we've maybe done updates to the content, and done some changes to it, you know, that kind of thing. So that's my idea with it. It seems to work pretty well, kind of keep the sites alive a little bit longer than just kind of letting them sit still. Paula, you're mentioning indexing rate much slower. We are, I'm testing out some indexing things. I don't have anything definite yet, but really just to kind of get the ball rolling with them. And so far it's worked pretty good, but I want to see like 2 or 3 weeks from now what it's doing. So in the process of these webinars that we'll be doing the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to share some of that, because I don't want to just, tell you, hey, this is working really well, and then realize that, 2 weeks later, it basically de-indexed all of my sites, which has happened with some indexing stuff in the past. So before I say anything about it or, how it's working, I want to just kind of hold on and see what it's doing. But in the next week or two, I'll be able to share some stuff in one of the webinars on indexing, maybe even get some stuff added to the command center to where, because they do have an API available. So, it's just a matter of inputting an API key and being able to kind of boost their sites. But let me get some more data on that, and then we'll see how well it works. Can you use this for your existing PPC sites? I'm not sure. I'm not sure because of the fact that so much of it deals with the hard-coded stuff that I added. Maybe test it on one. You're going to want to download the specific themes. So you just, you go into your FTP for wherever you install this one. You're going to want to download this Genesis Sandbox one and the Genesis as well. So you're going to want to download both of those, but only activate the Sandbox one on the brand new website or on your existing website, and see how well it works out. As long as the theme that you're currently using, if you're using one of my PPC ones and it has the same meta boxes, which is the shortcode needed for theme, then it should work. I've never tested it. So that's just something you may want to look at and see, to use it on your existing sites. Alexander's asking how to get the RSS feed from Bing. I forget exactly how I got it. I need to remember exactly where I got that from, so you can see how to include that on your other sites. I know I've got it hard coded into this particular template, so I'll have to look through the files and see where it is that I'm pulling that from, because it's basically just a shortcode that you would use with that plugin, and you tell it what feed to use. But the way that I've got it hard coded, it's a little bit different. But once I find that, I'll go ahead and post that. Maybe I'll have it in the notes section or something wherever I post this webinar. John was asking the Article Forge snippet. It's at the top of the Shaker page, and it's also spun. Yeah, I just grabbed the snippet just as is. Sometimes it has spinning involved with it. Sometimes it doesn't. I didn't add the spinning in myself, just however it came from Article Forge. That's how I do it. And once again, if you don't have Article Forge, you can just click straight through it from here, right here. And that's where you can sign up. That is an affiliate link. I'll get some credit for referring you there. But it is pretty neat program. I like how it works. I believe if you did more than 200 words, that's when you would actually get an image with it. I just noticed that, the more words you do, the longer that it takes. So, just something to keep in mind, but you can definitely take advantage of that there. And, get it from here is going to take you to their website. $47 a month. I think it's a great deal for the amount of content you can get. And you're asking, where can you download the latest version of WP Refresh? I actually don't have it uploaded at the moment, but once I do, you'll be able to get it from this area here where it's got bonuses. You can click on WP Refresh plugin and you'll be able to get it there. Or I might have the latest one here. Let me see. Plugins. Which version is this one? Okay, so this one, the one on there is 1.03. The one I have here is 1.04. So I'll go ahead and upload it here. You'll be able to get it from here. But right now it's 103. So I'll go ahead and put 104, and that's where you'll be able to get it there once I have it uploaded. So give me about a day or so to get that uploaded on there. Just make sure that I need to update it within the website itself of WP Refresh so that the licensing works. And you were asking about de-indexing rates. I get hit with de-indexing, but it's very random, and I've yet to be able to figure out exactly what would cause it. And it's not even like whole networks of sites come down. A lot of it really, I think I figured out that it has to do with the way that websites are registered. Because if I register like a set of 10 domains, a lot of times when I do get a website de-indexed in those 10, it's like all 10 go out. And so something that I've been doing to when I register domains is I kind of stagger it. So instead of registering a list of like 10 or 20, I'll do like one, and then, maybe an hour later do another. And I noticed this when I was working a lot with the expired domains. I was, doing a lot of testing with expired domains. And so sometimes like I would get a list of like 10 or 15 expired domains to register, and I would register them, and all 10 or 15 would get wiped out, whenever they did get wiped out. A lot of times it was, 3 or 4 months later. So at least I did get to make money from them, but they would end up getting the index. So I really have no proof to back that up. I just think that might have something to do with it. So just stagger your domain registrations. Don't do it all at once. I know that going under domain tools, it's just as simple as comma separated them, or I think putting them on each on a new line. So it's tempting to do a bunch of them at once. But don't, just do like one at a time. You can still, create the Cloudflare account, do all that. But just kind of do it one at a time as opposed to all at once. All right, we've gone a little bit past the hour mark. So I will go ahead and we'll end the webinar here. And the recording, like I said, this is the first time I'm using Demio. I don't know if it's automatic. I would believe so. But if it's not, I'll make sure that let you guys know when it's up there. And then we've got the next two scheduled. We'll be covering a little bit more on indexing, just kind of maybe the next one will be a little bit more Q&A type style. I may have a different monitor or an extra monitor set up by then, so it's easier for me to see the chat box without having to be jumping back and forth, because I'm working off of my laptop here. But we'll be able to do some Q&A. I'm going to be doing a ton of testing on the new indexing stuff. And then the last one, we'll kind of delve into, some other monetization methods. I'm really working on kind of maximizing the amount of revenue that I can get from all the different sites. And so, not just focusing on PPC, but jumping back into AdSense, which I haven't done in a long time, even some Amazon affiliate stuff, doing maybe some kind of black hat type stuff, which has worked well for me in the past, but I haven't done much of that either. So we'll be able to kind of touch on those and basically more of a, follow along, like, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is how it's working so far. So it may even be more than 3 webinars total. Because I do want to take advantage of the fact that I'm not going to be going anywhere for a while. So it makes it easy to kind of schedule things out and actually get work done, more than the typical like 1 or 2 hours a day that I was doing before. So I'll get this recording posted up, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.